I call this meeting to order. Economic Development Commission, Wednesday, August 26th. The first item on our agenda is to talk about business recovery, and the topic is temporary outdoor dining for restaurants. Mike, do you have any updates for us?
No, I don't have any updates for this. I have one update. Millwrights is actually expanding their outdoor dining. There'll be a second area. They'll be installing in the parking lot. The only update, although it's not Simsbury related, is the governor about 2 days ago issued an executive order extending the previous executive order for temporary outdoor dinings through November 16th. So everyone who has a permit right now, their permits are valid through November 16th.
Okay. And there was an article in the Hartford Courant on what Millwrights is doing as a taco
Gira.
Yeah, service to be offered, which sounds pretty cool. So I hope everybody takes advantage of that. As I mentioned, Sarah's not able to join us, but she did send me an email with an update. And her update reads as following. We continue to work with Simsbury businesses on all pressing issues, distribution of PPE, any questions on unemployment, and work share, etc. We had to cancel our annual Taste in Simsbury schedule for late August, but have a brand new exciting program called Simsbury. There's no place like home. And it's an art contest for all school-aged children in Simsbury, grades K through 12. The goal is to celebrate what makes Simsbury unique and to see those special attributes through the eyes of Simsbury school-aged children. The program also supports the arts and provides opportunities for the kids to participate in an all-inclusive creative activity that will not be impacted by pandemic-related restrictions. We have secured Liberty Bank as our premier sponsor, as well as many others. Sarah goes on to say that she sits on the 350th anniversary marketing committee, and we are well underway for the 2 movie nights at the Performing Arts Center at Simsbury Meadows. Reminder to families, they need to register in advance to secure their spots before it fills up. Space is limited due to social distancing measures. She's working with a prominent property owner in downtown. Applications should come in September for improvements. And that's about it. Anything to add? Mike, that you're aware of?
No, I have nothing to add to that.
Okay. Anything in additional, Melissa from Morgan from the chamber?
She didn't add anything specific. We did talk a little bit about, the recovery, and she said, in any way that she can help out with the work that this group is doing in regards to, I haven't really been in the loop, but my understanding is that in terms of the business specific outreach, that was left more to Main Street in the chamber. But she just wanted to make sure that if there's anything that you all needed from your perspective that she could help with, or vice versa, that she's happy to help out any way she can. So. Okay, very good. And she's extremely busy with everything that they're got underway. Is Sherm on the phone? Sherm on the line?
He's in person.
I'm here.
Sherm, you there?
Yeah. Can you not hear me?
Oh, there you go. We have an update for the Business Resource Library.
Not really anything to add from our last meeting, so.
No new updates?
Nope.
Okay. The next item is outreach to stakeholders. I've continued to reach out to the other stakeholders, if you will. We had talked to the number of people from the Department of Social Services and some of the nonprofits associated with food distribution and help with that. We've also talked to the private schools in town, and we've also reached out to the churches. I've been able to reach the pastor at the St. Albans Episcopal Church and the pastor at the Presbyterian Church to get their feedback. Both are very similar, and in some ways not. But Presbyterian Church has a lot of people on board who are very technology savvy to begin with, so they've been able to hold their Sunday services pretty easily getting people online and maintaining their level of membership or participation in church that way. They've also reached out and gotten some funding through the federal programs, the payroll protection program, to keep the people fully employed. And they found that their giving programs in the church have continued onward as well. So they're doing as well as can be expected, and they seem like they feel like they're in pretty good shape. The Episcopal Church is a little different in that a number of their members are at the elderly stage. So for them, using technology has been a challenge, and so they're not getting it's taken them a while to get everybody involved in the church services on Sunday. They've also applied for PPE and they got that, and they've been able to keep everybody employed. And what Rebecca Hatch told me, if you had talked to her in March and asked her where they thought what they would be in August, she would have been very, very concerned. And she's very happy to report they're in a much better shape than they thought they would be. So both good feedback from them. Rebecca did mention to me, though, her real concern is 6 months from now. What happens when, it starts getting colder outside, starts getting darker earlier, people start going inside earlier. It's been nice that people have been able to get outside and do things, but it's going to be a little more challenging as they start spending more time in home. And as we look at what the federal government has done and cut back on some of these programs, what's going to happen to unemployment benefits, what's going to happen to the loans that people have. I was with Sarah at another meeting yesterday. She is concerned about a number of restaurants in town as we get into the fall and into the winter, maybe not making it. So we've done a terrific job up to this point, but everybody's very concerned over the next 6 months. And I think it's just a point of we just need to continue to monitor that, and hopefully we're able to weather the storm as best we can. So it's been interesting to reach out to these stakeholders and get their input. And I'm glad we did the time to do that. Anybody else have any other feedback or comments? I know one of the things that we were asked to do was, as we go into town and go through our normal business, to ask the store owners how they're doing. Has anybody been doing that? Do they have any feedback or response they want to share with the group?
Hi, it's Charmaine. I really am not going anywhere into any restaurants or anything, but Bill Selig's Jewelers happens to be also a friend and also one of my accounts. And he's actually been doing good. I mean, not as good as, he probably would have been without COVID, but he got the loans, he kept his employees, and, people have been buying engagement rings and, doing the stuff people do. So this is never his really at Christmas time, obviously holiday time is his best time, but I think he was expecting things to be even worse, and they're not. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, and that seems to be kind of the consistent message we've been getting. So
What?
that's been kind of the consistent message we've been getting. People were fearing the worst, and they're doing better than expected. Not great, but they've been weathering the storm okay.
Doing okay.
Yeah, doing okay. Okay. Anybody else? I did talk to folks at M&M as I had a flat tire and I had to go down and get a new tire, and I just asked how they're doing, and there was a similar response. One of the interesting comments was they're kind of changing some of their business processes and how they work. They've having to go through this whole change of doing business as a result of COVID. They picked up some new ideas and some new ways of doing business that they find they're going to incorporate as they go forward. They feel like they've got some benefit out of that. So there's some silver lining in all the stuff they've had to go through. So, okay, moving on to item number 2, the work plan updates. Peter, any updates on the business incentive policy?
Not so much on the business incentive policy, no. And I've been remiss on that in the fact that I think I should be checking with Maria to see if there's some wording that Tom and I need to adjust and adapt that we to what we've already done.
Yeah.
I just haven't. I dropped the ball on that one, Bob.
Well, I
didn't
think,
follow through.
wasn't it, I thought, and Melissa, maybe you could help chime in here. I thought we were at a point where we were ready to take it to the Board of Selectmen for their review. Is that was my understanding.
We're close. We're very close. I think the last version, and I think it's the version that's in the packet, is for the packet tonight, is reflects the last time the smaller group we all got together. The feedback that Maria had provided then, I think the documents mostly include that. So I think her thought was just we just need to touch base one more time with that smaller group before we finalize it. So we're very close.
Okay, so we'll pull a final meeting together to get a final review done.
Right.
All right, very good. Thanks.
Melissa, is there something that I should be doing? This is Peter.
I don't think so. I think if, again, if this, whatever it is, 3-4 of us can just get together and just go through and make sure all the her notes were covered, any outstanding, questions that there were on it, then I think we can probably hammer it out in one meeting.
Aye.
Okay, Peter, want to talk about co-working?
Yes. I shipped out a one-pager to folks. Hopefully everybody that's on here has gotten it. If not, I will send it out. As I've been working on it, I wanted to make certain that all the assumptions were in a one piece of paper before moving forward. And that was the purpose of sending out this one sheet. Just to reiterate, quickly, co-working is not an incubator. It's assuming that the assumptions I have with it, and this has yet to be informed by folks like Morgan Hilliard, who I've been trying to get to for about 3 weeks, and she's unfortunately, I think she's got some type of big to-do next week, and every time that we've tried to meet, she's had to postpone, but we're on deck for next week. And I also would like to get, with Sherm, just he and I to go over it. But my assumptions as they are right now, that anything we do with co-working is going to be based in private, nothing related, funded by the town or managed by the town. Short to even daily to longer duration rents. I think that there's availability in town. Several landlords through Sarah have expressed an interest in, as this is a way to get some money out of some space that they have. I'm assuming, big assumption, and is that we're going to have a demand going forward. The idea being is as Sherm rolls out and we can get people out and about, his business resource center will hopefully be inundated, and we're going to have to find, or we will need an opportunity to find a way to kind of get people out of the library and into other spaces. Management of these things, I'm thinking that the EDC will develop some standards. And again, all these are just my basic ideas, all in draft. But I wanted to get back to the EDC with the idea that I have some tasks that I'd like to, that unless otherwise directed, I'm going to do. And that is in the next couple weeks and months, falls under the periods of research and publicize. Research, what that means is finally getting with Morgan, getting with Sherm, getting a list of what we may need to manage this, or might be managed from a centralized basis, decide whether it's going to be managed centralized, and then start to engage through the Chamber of Commerce and Simsbury Main Street potential landlords to see if there's interest. We know that there is interest anecdotally among town, but to make it a little bit more organized as far as going out to the different landlords. And my goal there is to avoid being perceived as not being open to everybody that may want to do this. And that goes along with the publicized part is once you get a little bit more up to speed with people that actually have experience, i.e. Sherm and Morgan, start to talk about putting some articles together for the local press to not only generate some interest, but also see every time I've done things like this, I get input from the public that comes from out of a left field that I never would have expected. And I'm thinking that we want to do that sooner rather than later to avoid surprises down the road. So I'm looking for the input from folks on what I put together here, and also if anybody is against me moving forward with doing some more research and then getting some publicity going, I'd appreciate pushback now. And does everybody have what I put out, or do I need to send it to folks?
No, I have it.
Okay, forgive me for rambling, but I wanted to just get out what I was thinking and what I'm planning.
Trying to, I don't know if everybody on the call though got the email, Peter. So is that something?
Yeah, I can. I shipped it to. I just shipped it to Melissa and to Eric.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got it, Peter.
Okay.
And did you send what to Tom Fitzgerald? He could send it out to everybody else on the.
Gee, I think I did, but maybe I didn't. Tom, is Tom on?
He should be.
I'm here.
I think I sent it to you. If I did not, then I really screwed up because the last thing I want is to have somebody think that we're trying to keep this quiet.
I don't think I have it, Peter.
Well, then I'm a bad person.
Okay, I'll go ahead and forward it to him.
Sorry, Tom.
No worries. Is this something you'd want me to put up on the screen for tonight for everyone to see?
No, I don't think so because everybody's got a hold of it. But I wanted you to have it so that anybody that's doing any FOIA requests would have the opportunity to read it.
Yeah, if you could send it out to everybody else on the call, Tom, make sure everybody on the call gets a copy of this. That'd be helpful.
And I'm gonna give Sherm, I'm gonna give you a call directly to get your input on, and I'm gonna, as I say, I'm meeting with Morgan next week finally, and as I get more reality into this thing as opposed to my perspective, I will continue to keep it in draft, and I will share it with Tom and the rest of the folks. So. Everybody understands what we're thinking and has a chance to push back and give us the benefit of your perspective.
Thanks, Peter. I'm really intrigued by this item. I don't have a crystal ball or any data around this, but I think in the years to come, there are going to be more people working from home, if not full-time, even working from home more than they used to. And I think, just for me personally, even if I'm working at home 3 days a week, I would love for the ability to just go somewhere where I can have a cup of coffee and see other people.
Yeah, that's one of the operating assumptions. And one of the things that's been informed in my house is that it also is a way to keep me from being murdered by my wife.
Is it contemplated that these co-working spaces are going to be kind of grouped for multiple businesses like you're saying, Eric, or I kind of picture them as more a business owner and I might want to have a client meeting.
Yeah.
But not so much interaction. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have I not intend to be prescriptive at all, but I could totally see an entrepreneur or anyone who works from home wanting the ability to be able to meet in a neutral professional environment. But I was also thinking about the large numbers of people who work for one of the big companies in Hartford that are now home, even post-COVID. And the ability to just have other colleagues and people around them.
Yeah, I'm assuming, and again, to be informed by reality as we move forward, assuming that work at home folks from the corporations, entrepreneurs, and the other aspect is ad hoc. I'm thinking that I'm wondering if we can make it so that we can schedule things. So if somebody, like for myself, I have an office downtown that I rent 100% of the time. I'm certain that some entrepreneurs might want to do that. Others might say, gee, I just need to get out of the house one day a week. Others, and they say that I need to get out on Thursday. Others might just say, gee, I just need it happenstance. And that would require, if as I go forward, is thinking a centralized scheduling system, so that if I sign on and I say I need a conference room next Thursday, I go on and gee, there's a conference room that happens to be available next Thursday in corporate office building A, who is that's owned by landlord Z. And 2 weeks after that, there's another corporate a place where I can rent a desk for a week with a commercial office building B that is owned by corporate owner W. My point is that these things need, the space can be shared, not just the services, but the space, as opposed to everybody just going to commercial office A or commercial office B. Try to find a central clearinghouse. This is when I talked to Sarah. She seemed to think that a central clearinghouse was a better idea than trying to do it piecemeal. And Morgan seemed to say that was some of the things that she did in West Hartford, but I have to get more information on that. And as I've done some research, I've seen that in a couple towns in the Midwest, this is what they've done. Again, my goal is over the next couple weeks is to put these ideas out to the landlords, see if it can be worked, and to come back to the EDC saying this is how this is the input that we've been getting, and this is how I think that we need to incorporate it and act upon it. But please know that that draft thing that I put out is definitively that. It's a draft. And
Are there any, in the COVID environment here, are there any executive orders you need to be cognizant of? Governors out there saying you're bringing disparate parties into an environment.
Eric, you went frozen on me.
I'm just thinking to make it easy, to make it attractive for landlords, if we could guide them on that, because that might be something they're fearful of. That's all. I'm not bringing it up as a downer, but like if there's something there, we can say, yeah, this is how you can accommodate that, or don't worry about it, or.
Yeah, there's been one or two that are eager to move forward on their own, and that's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
There may be an opportunity to kind of help do it from a centralized location with the miracles of information technology and things like that. But again, have got some work to do. And unless anybody is against it, I'm going to move forward doing that research. So unless otherwise directed, that's what I'm going to do.
I think you got a
Okay.
thumbs up from Eric.
Cool beans.
Correct. Thanks,
Okay,
Peter.
Yeah, I'll shut up now, Bob.
Okay, Sherm, anything to add?
No, really nothing to add. It's just kind of waiting until we get back to normal. I
Yeah,
mean, that's what it's going to be. So whenever that day comes,
hopefully sooner versus later.
oh, I hope so.
Might be a good resource on this. In your library environment, are you having to, how are you considering opening that up to the public? It's not like a grocery store.
Well, initially, when we do reopen, we're going to be moving a lot of our furniture into storage to enforce social distancing. So our tables will just have a single chair at them. Most of our computers will be unavailable, so we can social distance there also. And mask will be required. We'll have hand sanitizer everywhere, and we'll see how it goes.
So I guess a private entity who's got a co-working space would just have to kind of follow the same guidelines you are.
Yeah, our facility staff, they already have a really good protocol that we follow during flu season for wiping everything down. So they're just stepping that up a little bit to do more frequent bathroom disinfecting and that when we do open. But none of our meeting rooms will be available. None of our small conference rooms will be available. We won't have any of those spaces open.
Is that because you're going to be prohibited from doing that? Or you just?
Well, the problem is we're still under a pretty small limit for meeting size. So, and then we don't want to have staff literally spend their time policing everybody's meetings to make sure the rules are followed also. So it's not like the old days where you could let them into the room and then head off and then come back when they're supposed to wrap up. We would have to have somebody down there monitoring and making sure it's all done properly.
Okay, anything else on co-working? Okay, the business outreach, I've already talked about what we've done, outreach to stakeholders, so no new updates there other than to ask the question to Tom. I know, Tom, are we in a position to begin thinking about getting back on track to make calls on our larger businesses here in town? I know we talked about that a little bit at our last meeting, but I don't know if anything has happened, anything been scheduled or anything been discussed about trying to set something up, or are we still pretty much on hold?
I think that's a holding pattern still. I can kind of get back to you for next meeting of checking with Maria and Melissa on possible ways to work around the COVID environment.
Yeah, I think Maria's thought right now is to reschedule the visits that were canceled over the last few months, but to do them virtually to start.
Okay,
So I think that's what at least what she's thinking. And she also wanted me to raise, the idea of if perhaps there's other members of the EDC who would be interested in perhaps doing the same thing, but with smaller businesses. So that's sort of the next tier down. So just something to throw out there and start thinking about. But yes, in terms of the monthly visits that we had scheduled, the goal is to reschedule and to try to do it virtually to start.
now we did talk about trying to assign specific EDC members to these calls, but I don't know if we ever formalized that. For example, I know Peter has an interest in meeting with the folks in Ensign Bickford, given his background.
Yep. I have a list actually sitting next to my desk of kind of everyone that reached out to me for different businesses. I can send that list out to the group again to make sure they still kind of want to be on those calls.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. 'Cause I know Charmaine was interested. I'm not sure that it was the Hoffman brothers or one of the auto dealers in town that she does work with. So I just want to make sure we get that formalized. I think that'd be good. If you could send that out, Tom, that'd be great. Okay, any updates on marketing, Charmaine?
Well, I talked to Sarah earlier this week, and
Good.
she sent me some. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
She sent me some correspondence, and I was asking her about this revised brand design service printing, total $17,793. I think that's been passed around for. So, unbeknownst to me, she told me this was nothing had happened yet, because I'm like, well, what's the status of this? When am I going to see this? Whatever. And she said she's waiting for Maria to send a note or an email or whatever to say that, you know, the funds are in the budget, they're available. You know, I would think next step, you know, have Dornberg send an official invoice or whatever to get started on this. So I didn't realize that we were just in a complete holding pattern, because Sarah's looking for some kind of official email from town hall, so to speak, that says, yes, this is all approved. It's ready to move forward. We have the money, like, start. So that's where we are.
Okay, yeah, I think the last minutes we talked about, we rolled over the fiscal year. We had the monies in the previous year, and given the COVID situation, we didn't spend it.
Like,
So
wherever the money is, however that is, you know, this agency isn't going to start until they get something that says the money is there, it is available, and, you know, we're ready to go. And I would assume, as most agencies do, they probably will want, you know, a portion of it up front or send an invoice or whatever. I mean, that's kind of the common way to do something. But hasn't done anything, or nothing's being done, because we don't have this official email from Maria.
okay.
So just a couple of things on that. Process wise, the funds, Bob, you're correct. The funds were for fiscal year 20. So we just procedurally, the Board of Finance has to approve the funds rolling over for the current fiscal year. So we don't anticipate any issues with that. It's just, it has to happen.
Yep.
They're, I think, going to take it up at their September meeting. So we should be good in a few weeks. The second thing was, my understanding from Maria was that she was hoping that Sarah was sharing the contract with Brooke and Charmaine, just to make sure they had the opportunity to look at it and weigh in. And if there were no suggestions or any concerns or changes, she can go ahead and execute the contract once we confirm the funds are there. But she did want to make sure that Brooke and Charmaine were able to weigh in on it if they wanted to before she did that.
I don't think this is Brooke, by the way, and sorry I'm late. I haven't seen her send anything. Charmaine, have you?
Yeah, I have a copy here. Maybe it was on the attachment she only sent to me. I mean, I copy things and print things and keep them in files. So I've got one here. Did she? I see the date on this email. She sent this to, oh yeah, she sent it to you, Brooke. Also, it was on 7/22 at 7:39 p.m. But I can dig this out of my email and send it to you again if it's
No, I'll
lost in
find
email.
it.
So it was sent on 7/22, and that's where the attachment was.
Let's see.
It's pretty standard looking stuff. It's, you know, it's
I
not
got
like-
it
doesn't really
from
say
Sarah.
that. Yeah, from Sarah to you, to me, and you and Maria.
I see where she attached it. I didn't see her ask us to review it, but I'm happy to look through it and, you know, yeah, it's just a one pager. There's not much.
It's just standard stuff. And then you got to put your head together and say, okay, well, what do we want all this to be? So updated brand and brand guide. Well, okay, what is that? I mean, these are all pretty, you know, copywriting, layout, and print supervision. Okay, well, we got to have something to copyright. We got to have something to print, you know, so it's just the basic outlines.
Yeah, I wonder if there will be another document after this. That's a little bit more.
As far as I can
Gosh, I
understand,
would hope so.
well, I mean, we would have to, I mean, this is like the layout of it. So we got to do the work, but this is the layout of it. From what I understand, I have the same thing that if you open the attachment that you have now, so.
Okay.
It
Right.
might be helpful to meet with Maria and Sarah, or have a side conversation just to kind of go through what we need to do on our end, if anything. You know, it was my understanding that this was pretty much good to go, but I could
Yeah,
be.
it was like, this is what was approved. That's kind of how I heard it too. But I mean, it's just an outline of what it is. I mean, the meat of what this is has to be, you know, what's the copy? What are the words? What are we trying to push? So.
Okay. So work can begin on that piece while we're waiting for the final approval on the funding. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't really start on it. Well, I guess in theory we could. I think Sarah's waiting to do anything until she knows it's approved, but
Okay.
we can all have I mean, that's kind of the feel I got from her, because really you have to collaborate with Dornberg and be working, together with them. So for us to start on something without collaborating with them wouldn't really do us any good, because it's, they're the creative team you're hiring, and we'll just collaborate with them and put in our ideas and everything. And Dornberg's not going to start doing that until they know the money's confirmed.
Right,
So
right.
it's kind of a catch-22.
Yep. Understood. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Anything else on work plan updates? At our last meeting, then, we introduced 3 new ideas that Jackie Bedos and Eric had come up with. The first one was just informal business outreach, which we kind of touched on earlier. The other was assisting the Chamber of Commerce with their projects, and we did hear back from Morgan that she did need assistance with helping to organize the government affairs meeting. I know Maria had reached out to Caroline Meckel to see if she could help out with that. Melissa, if they ever closed the loop and did connect?
I don't know, but I can
Okay.
check in with her.
Okay, if you could just check into that, that'd be helpful. And then the last thing was to assign an EDC member to a major development project in town. And to kind of shepherd that development project through the whole approval process in town. And then as that company starts to develop the project and their business and get settled and implement everything, that the EDC member would have a relationship from the beginning and working with that particular company, and they could stay with them, be involved in calls, future calls with them to better develop that relationship and just stay with that business and help develop them over the years to come. So we did have a meeting, Mike Glidden, Maria, and myself, to kind of sit down and talk about that idea. We all thought it was a good idea, but we at least need to put some parameters around that particular approach. And there's a 1-pager in your packet that you received. At the top of it's called Process and Parameters for Matching EDC Members with New Development Projects. And so what we tried to do here was to quickly, outline the long-term goal that we have and the objective for doing this. And again, it's all about building a relationship with that new business owner or a business in town that's maybe going through a major renovation or what have you, and begin to build that relationship at the beginning of the effort and all the way through, so that we can better serve the customer for many years to come. As we began to lay out the parameters and think about it, I guess the major thought that came through is, as the EDC member is participating and sitting in on these meetings, whether it be a zoning meeting, a planning meeting, a design review board, or what have you, the people that sit on those boards have specific knowledge and are trained, if you will, to know the regulations. And it's it's a highly regulated industry. We, as the EDC member, are not expected to know what those regulations are, nor are we expected to bring any specific expertise to those meetings. So the idea is that we sit in those meetings, we observe, we learn, we can maybe jot down questions or what have you, but we do not actively participate in the meeting. If you want to discuss it afterwards or have questions you want to get answered, it's appropriate after the meeting, maybe to sit with Mike or who's ever running the meeting, to get your questions asked and understand some things, but we don't actively participate. So I think that was the major concern that we had about this. But the member would be expected to go on the town website, find out through the agenda, if the customer that they've been assigned to or the project they've been assigned to, if they're going to be in front of the zoning board or the design review board of planning or what have you, attend those meetings, observe, hear what's going on, learn, and then as things progress, introduce themselves, start to build a relationship with the customer, and then the idea then is to carry that forward. But understand that you observe in those meetings, don't actively participate in those meetings. Okay, so that's what these, the main thought was behind these parameters. Tom or Mike Glidden, anything else to add?
No, Bob, I think you did a great job on the parameters, by the way.
Thank you.
Exactly what we discussed.
Sometimes I do listen. So I think if this is fine with you, if this is, how we want to organize it, this great, then I think the next step then really is to sit down with you, Mike, and, let's go through those projects with the larger team here, maybe at our next meeting, and see who would like to participate in these projects. We got some.
So
Go ahead.
probably by the next meeting, I'll have a few applications brewing.
Okay.
So I guess it would be more of maybe Bob is seeing who is interested, and then after the meeting, we can connect to say, okay, that application's been filed, or this one's coming in preliminarily before design review, zoning, et cetera.
So do you want to kind of put together a preliminary list and maybe distribute to us and see who's interested, or do you want to do that at our next meeting, or how do you want to?
I prefer to do the next meeting because a few of the projects that I'm aware of are not for public consumption yet because obviously the applications have not been filed. I would almost ask maybe if there's who's interested, and then maybe through you, Bob, as these applications start coming in, we could say, okay, here's an application at this property.
Okay.
This member, you're assigned to this project. Next
Okay.
member on the list gets the next one.
Yeah. Or I'll send it out to the group and say who's interested, and have people raise their hands, and because there may be some interest based on their background or knowledge, previous relationships, what have you. That would be of interest to folks.
So Bob and Mike, the intent is to kind of say passively participate in applications or just observe?
To observe. So, for example, I forget one of the meetings I attended.
You wouldn't forget mine, Bob, so it couldn't have been mine.
It was a design review board meeting.
It could have been design review. So, so people are there, the customer's there, he's there with their architects or what have you. And you could sit in these meetings and, listen to what's going on, and you learn a lot. And this will work better when we're back in person, because casually you could walk up after the meeting, introduce yourself to the architect, introduce yourself to the customer, just mention to them you're part of the EDC. You've been assigned, to them as a client to kind of shepherd them through. I mean, you're not there to help them with the process. We're not expecting you to have the expertise or knowledge or anything like that, but just be aware of that. But just start to build a relationship with this customer. And so the one example we talked about when Maria and Mike and I got together was I did reach out to Stephen Stang, who runs the Terrafill Mill. And I asked him, would he be interested in doing a business outreach meeting? And with all of the businesses in the Terrafill Mill, and there's quite a few, and all different shapes and sizes and what have you, And so he said, sounds like a great idea. Let me run it by all my businesses here and I'll get back to you. And he did. And what we got back was a, no, we don't want to meet, but it was much stronger than that. We have no desire to have anything to do with the town, quite frankly. That their whole approval process and getting zoning permits updated and what have you was just a disaster. And they have such ill will towards the town that they really didn't want to meet. And I can fully understand after reading through this all, oh, wow, that was, okay, we could have probably handled this better. So, but I understood that. So the idea is, hey, if you're in these meetings and you hear what's going on, you've got that history and you're aware of it. And so that when the business is approved and they've developed their stuff and they're going on gangbusters and we make a call on them, a year down the road, you know what's happened. You've been through it all. If there's a way for you to add value in the process as you're going through it, by all means, do that. But we're not expecting you to to have any knowledge or expertise. I mean, the people that are on the boards are knowledgeable. They understand the regulations. They're the pros from Dover, if you will. We're not. And so, but if you think there's some things where you can add some value, then discreetly behind the scenes, you may want to make some calls or ask some questions to see if you can help things out. But you're not an active participant in those meetings. Does that help?
So, Bob, I've been going to the zoning meetings for the last year plus. I know most of the zoning board members now. We'll have to say hello to them, and a few of them a little better than that. And I'll be continuing to go to those. I've avoided having direct contact with the people that are submitting. Just wasn't sure what our position was, and I've been more just observing. So I guess just let you know I'm there anyways. If there's a specific one you wanted someone to participate in with the architectural review board, that happens right before the zoning meeting. It wouldn't be a big deal to show up an hour early for a specific project coming through. And I'll just sit through both of them.
Yeah. So as we create that list, Ron, we'll assign you to one of these projects, and let you shepherd it through. So you could find yourself at a meeting and looking to your right and seeing another EDC member there who's been assigned to that particular project.
Sure.
And but that was the thought. So, Bill, do we answer your question?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understood the role. So it's not like a liaison to the commission. It's someone that will have a particular application that they're focusing on.
Right. Okay. We have, like Ron's a liaison to zoning. I've been attending the design review boards.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who our liaison is to planning, but.
Mike and Bob, did you guys talk about any of the legal implications of having a town commissioner or committee member speaking with an applicant? That's a no-no for like if someone submits a subdivision to the planning commission, I can't have any ex parte discussions with them. It all has to be done in the public view.
Right. So is there any legal issue or challenge if I walked up and introduced myself, or just say, this is who I am and why I'm here?
Well, I think it would just depend on why you're there.
Yeah.
If you're there to help them get their application approved, that means you're working for them.
Correct.
And that might be okay. I don't know.
No, well, I think that's what we'll be trying to do with this parameters document, is to try to make sure that we adhere to the proper rules and regulations so we don't get ourselves in trouble.
Yeah, Bill, you actually hit the exact concern that I had from the start, was that there had to be a clear separation. So hence why what Bob started with, the observing the application would be the intent. So you wouldn't have someone who's coming in speaking basically as, hey, I'm from EDC and let me tell you, what my 2 cents are, what the planning commission just said to you. So we avoid those situations.
Okay.
I think one thing that would be really neat once you go through that first round of following these companies is coming together and having a conversation and discussing the themes that came out of that, because most of us are only seeing a slice of the process, whereas you're getting that bird's eye view. And if there are opportunities to improve the experience from a process perspective, whatever is feasible, I'd be really interested in supporting that.
Yeah. Okay. Good points. All good points. So Bill, take a look at that document, the parameters document. And if there's ways to make it clear or make it better, let us know. Feel free
Okay,
to.
Bob. Yeah, I will do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the 2019-2020 EDC annual report. That presentation is going to occur in early October. The date escapes me at the moment, but I think it's like the first week of October for the Board of Selectmen meeting.
We're looking at the October 14th meeting for that,
October
Bob.
14th meeting. Okay. I have started to pull together a draft presentation, building off of what we did last year. And my thought was to have something out to you to take a look at within the next week or so that I could get your feedback in time for our September meeting and wrap up the final presentation at that particular point in time, because that's the last time we meet before we get together on the 14th. So as an example, one of the things I wanted to do was last year at the presentation, we talked about things that we were working on. And Ron, this is a lot of it had to do with, the complete zoning approval process improvements. We wanted to update the land use regulations. We wanted to consolidate and simplify for zoning approvals. There were some things we talked about that we said that the zoning board was like a work in progress already for them. And so we were going to let them work through it and actually implement those. But I don't know if we've actually done that. And so, trying to get an update from you on the zoning approval process improvements that were identified. Mike, we talked about the update to land use regulations.
So Bob, I give you a quick update on that. Those were approved and effective June 29th, 2020. So
Okay.
new regs are in place with some administrative approvals built in.
So a lot of things we talked about last year have actually been done and been implemented.
Well, that was the zoning regulations you're talking about, Mike?
Yep. The townwide zoning regs.
So, we didn't really have input on that other than, occasionally I discuss some of the things that are coming up and let you guys know what's going on. That's really zoning board's task to do that. I did put that list together on kind of like a cycle of how an applicant will go through the different departments, and we had some discussions, but didn't seem to go anywhere. I don't know if there was much that could be changed on that. I did offer some things, but was told to hold off on it. So that's kind of sad.
Okay. But in our report, since we talked about these are things we were working on, I thought it'd be important this year to say this is what's actually come of that. So to the extent, Ron, when you see the deck and I say, can you add your comments here? That's an example of, just provide a quick update for us, and then send the deck back to me, and I've got it in that, and then I'll make sure that's part of the presentation.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so that's kind of the approach I wanted to do. And like I said, I'll try to get a draft out in the next week to everybody. And I'll try to make comments on the pages where I need your help and input. clearly we'll talk about the co-working projects we have going on, as well as the updates to the major work streams that we have, and updates to some of the business outreach work that we've done. And but obviously, the biggest impact has been we didn't meet for quite a few months because of the COVID situation. So the presentation will be short and sweet. So, any other thoughts, ideas on the annual report? What I will say, I assume it'll be done through a Zoom meeting at that point, Melissa, is that true?
For the foreseeable future, we're still doing virtual. It's hard to say exactly what it'll look like in October, but yeah, I would possibly, yeah.
Okay, so the idea that everybody's obviously invited to sit in on that meeting and
Yeah.
participate and
Yep. Not mandatory, but other than who's presenting, but everyone's welcome to be there that night.
One thing I would ask the EDC to think about, if there's anything that individuals are not working on, that you're interested in working on, or you think the EDC should be working on, or even broader the town, please include any of those recommendations in that presentation.
Okay. We'll make sure that we really add that on the list. Okay. Everybody had a chance to review the minutes from our last meeting on the 22nd of July? Any edits or changes to the minutes?
Motion to approve.
We have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Approve?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, I think the meetings are accepted. Any other comments before we officially adjourn the meeting? All right, it's 6:31, so got done within an hour. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved, second?
Second?
Second. Meeting is adjourned. All in favor of adjourning the meeting, raise your hand. Okay, thanks, everybody.